Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to just kind of reiterate that agriculture is the #1 industry in the majority of states in this country. And even if you're not a farmer, agriculture is important to the economy of your state. And as I look at things right now, the thing that scares me, you've got John Deere, the world's largest seller of tractors and crop harvesters, and this is from an article in June, announced that they were laying off 610 production workers. So even if you're not a farmer, if you're, if you're one of those 610 workers, the reduction in prices for our commodities is having a direct impact on them and their families. The article states lower crop prices are leaving agriculture equipment sellers with an excess of unsold tractors and combines, leading some to offer discounts and suspend new orders. And it also says the Department of Agriculture has also forecast farm income would slide $25.5 billion from 2023. There's been some discussion about the Commodity Credit Corporation. Certainly when ad hoc payments are made, the Commodity Credit Corporation is used. But wouldn't you agree that farmers would rather have a safety net system that isn't dependent on ad hoc payments to get them through the tough years? Would all of you agree that a good safety net system that doesn't require the ad hoc payments is more important than, and then certainly if we get into situations where you do have to have additional money for the CCC, that is something that can be done. And I noticed, Ms. Truly, you talked about the trade deficits. We're already in a trade war with a lot of countries. It's not Trump's trade war. It's a war that's been levied against the citizens of America. And Donald Trump's just the first person to respond to it, to say, if you want fair trade, it's going to be fair trade. And that's a two-way street. So I appreciate you bringing up the fact that we have the trade deficits. But I want to go back to you, Mr. Dunlow. You and I both spoke to cotton producers this past week. And the key question that was asked, and again, remember that agriculture is the #1 industry in the majority of the states out there, was asked by a producer to a banker at the event that we both spoke at. And his question was, if farmers have average yields, what percentage of the farmers will you be able to bank next year? Do you remember that question?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember the answer from the banker, the ag
Yes,
lender?
sir. I think she stated that maybe 80% of her current producers with an average crop, she would be able to refinance for another year, which leaves 20% out.
That won't be farming next year.
Absolutely.
And in years gone by, if someone wasn't going to farm, then there was somebody else that was willing to pick up and rent the land. But with the balance sheet changes that we're seeing right now, Mr. Hotchkiss, is it overly optimistic to think that if a farmer isn't able to farm next year, that somebody else is going to step in and rent that property and plant that crop?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. And I don't know if it's overly optimistic. You're right. There's always been someone that's willing to step up and has been competitive. But with commodity prices where they are and the inability to be able to grow a crop that you could at least break even, it is going to challenge those that might have picked up those acres in the past.
Well, in my state, I mean, it's bankers that are calling me as much as farmers and saying there's not a single commodity that our guys are going to be cash flow positive on. And if you're not cash flow positive based on input prices and commodity prices, you certainly don't grow your operation or plant. I mean, David, would you expand your operation right now?
Absolutely not. I mean, me and my son have gone through in certain farms that's less productive, because we've been forced to lay people off and maybe get rid of some of the less productive land, and a lot of things we're doing just trying to survive.
I'm almost out of time. Let me end with this. Secretary Vilsack was here February 14th. I would hope all of you would watch it. He says specifically, farm income over the 2021 to 2023 period represents the highest level of farm income in the last 50 years. If you listen to Secretary Vilsack, everything's just hunky-dory and rosy on the American farm. But I'm going to tell you something. There's a big disconnect between what's happening in the ag economy and what our current Secretary of Agriculture thinks is actually going on the American farm. Thank you all for being here.